Radhe Radhe. My name is Madan Thirukonda. I'm welcoming you to the Bhagavad Gita Summit 2022, Day 2. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce you to Dr. John Radwan. I will give a little introduction about him. He has a fascinating topic for us today on the occasion of Bhagavad Gita Jayanti. Dr. John Radwan is an associate professor of communication and director of the Institute for Communication and Religion in Seton Hall's College of Communication and the Arts. He earned a BA in communication from the University of New Hampshire and a MA in communication studies from Northern Illinois University and a PhD in speech communication from Penn State University. His teaching and research focus on the intersection of rhetoric and religion, examining how ancient traditions influence contemporary public discourse. He authored the Public Communication and Religion entry in the International Encyclopedia of Communication, and his work has been published in a range of professional periodicals, including the Journal of Communication and Religion and the Journal of Media and Religion. In 2012, the Religious Communication Association awarded him the Article of the Year for his rhetoric and public affairs essay titled Contact Rhetoric, Bodies and Love in Dies Caritas Est. In 2021, he was honored as Researcher of the Year by the College of Communication and the Arts. Again, it is a fascinating topic titled Balance, Centering, and Transcendence, Krishna on Communication and Work. With that, Dr. John Radwan.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to open up with an invocation from chapter 18 of the Gita. Near the very end, Krishna tells Arjuna, "Whoever earnestly studies this sacred discourse of ours, I consider that he has worshipped and loved me with the yoga of knowledge." I find this teaching extremely heartening. My primary discipline is communication, not religion, and I'm not a Hindu, so it doesn't stop me from reading, but I'm too prone to doubting myself when I interpret scripture. In this shloka, Krishna doesn't put stress on proper or orthodox reading. Instead, he puts it on an earnest and heartfelt attitude. I can't control many things in my life, but one thing I can control is my attitude. I know I genuinely appreciate Krishna's teaching in the Gita, and I'm sincere in my desire to learn. To know that an attitude of devotion and care is all that's needed to achieve worship makes me feel welcomed and safe when I speak about the Gita. My slides are frozen. I'm going to keep trying to go because I know I'm on live TV. Can you try to get it going? So, good evening. I'm really honored to be here with you. In our digital age, I think physical visits are more important than ever. Thank you so much. Did we lose our connection? And I greatly appreciate your hospitality. So, as you've heard, I'm a communication scholar, and my research area is religious rhetoric. I study how religious traditions and leaders influence audiences and society at large. The title for my talk today is Balance, Centering, and Transcendence, Krishna on Communication and Work. The first three terms are spiritual principles: balance, centering, and transcendence. In this talk, I'll connect those spiritual principles to practical arts of communication and work. I want to begin with a brief exercise to introduce you to how I define my field, communication. I can speak up. How's that? A little better? I'll speak up. So again, my field is communication, and, well, what is it? same as what the dictionary says communication means. I'm interested in what communication means to you in your life and in your experience. 1 minute. Please reflect. What does communication mean? Go.
Expressing yourself.
Please reflect. I'll give you a chance to talk in a minute. This is silent. And really, while you do that, we're going to fix my slides. Oh, there we go.
Expressing your ideas and your opinions so other person can understand.
Okay, good. Expression. Anyone else? That's actually kind of what I was looking for, expression, so I'll just stop it there. Lots of people tend to think of communication as expression or output. And so a nice, simple diagram might be one like this, right? We have a person, it kind of looks like a snowman to me, but it's a person, and that person is expressing themselves in a red word bubble. Now, when we approach communication like this as a solo person expressing themselves, in communication studies we call this an action or output orientation. And we do it all the time, right? We say things like, I sent a message, or I posted my pictures. Certainly beyond people, the whole communications industry, like in advertising and journalism, sees it as output, right? We're sending our words out. And then nowadays with social media, we've got lots of influencers out there sending their messages out, striving to get people to notice, people to pay attention. So a traditional and I would say normal understanding of communication is that we use our words as tools. They're tools or instruments that help us express ourselves. When we're doing it that way, we start to treat our words as if they're those tools are utilitarian. Our job starts to be how to use tools. And this is an ancient view. Aristotle started with this 2,500 years ago for the start of Western culture. Rhetoric is the art of persuasion and influence. That's what I study. And from the very start of the field, he said rhetoric is all about finding the available means of persuasion, finding the available tools. Now, I've had a lot of time to think about this because this is my field, and really, my job is communication. I'm a teacher, so I teach every day, I write and I speak, and when I first started, I kind of thought the same way Aristotle said to think. I'm using my words to do something. I'm achieving a goal. So I say something like I taught a lesson. Over time, and especially as I've studied the Gita, I've started to shift my focus away from saying I teach lessons and much more toward my relationship with my audience. So I taught a student is a different type of thing, right? I'm starting to connect with a person. I'm relating with a person rather than sending a word, a lesson outward. So nowadays, I start to look at most communication, and sadly, it doesn't look like people are connecting. Lots of times, there's a barrier or a gulf between people, and our words hit that barrier. I have a quote here from Parker Palmer. He's a wonderful leadership guru, if you ever have time to learn from him. He criticizes those bad teachers. Bad teachers, for him, are all the same. Their words float somewhere in front of their faces, like the balloon speech in cartoons. Bad teachers distance themselves from their subject and from their students. So, a utilitarian philosophy of communication, it assumes that we're divided. It assumes that there's space in a gulf between us. And then a more Eastern perspective, a Gita perspective, or a Han here, I'm quoting a Buddhist perspective, says that we should really understand one another as existing in relation. And Han's word for this is interbeing. So nowadays, I try to think of communication like this diagram, where we have people making contact. In the center of the diagram, you see two people, I think they might just be starting to make contact, right? Their bubbles haven't fully intersected yet, but they're trying. They're reaching out toward one another, and I think the right hand is making contact. contact, the left ones are not to. And then if you look at the back of the image, you start to see people who have bonded, right? So there's a family in the top right, there's a couple in the top left. What's going on here is a major change in how you look at communication. So rather than something that's a tool, we should look at communication as a gift cycle. And this is actually built into the etymology of the word. So not too many people know Latin, so it's okay if you didn't know this before. But munus is the root for the word communication, and munera is the plural form, and it means gift or gifts. And so when we start to think of our communication as giving, of sharing of our gifts, it begins to shift our perspective. In the mid-20th century, Marshall McLuhan was one of the theorists that first got going on this in electronic media, where he said, our media are not things that are separate from us. Our media are things that extend us. So electronic media, for Marshall McLuhan, are extensions of our central nervous system. And then for a more recent one, still 20th century, I like James Corder because he brings in an emotional dimension to it. So even when we argue, we're still reaching out. We're emerging toward the other. And then ideally, when things are working well, we could have a loving outreach. Rhetoric, persuasion, and influence could become love. So that's a little setup for my field, communication and how I see things. To try to review with you really quickly, communication equals, yeah, but what's the root? Gifts. Hey, it's a gift cycle. And you know it's a gift cycle and shared because co is right on the beginning, right? So any English word, you know it's joint, right? It's a collaborative action. And then shun on the end just means it's a process. It's not just one act. It's a cycle or a system. And then the root is munus. So we're talking about a public offering, sharing of our gifts with one another as we extend self toward one another to bond. I'd like to take a little bit of time to tell you about my own history with the Bhagavad Gita so that you can see an example of this gift cycle in action. So you might remember the introduction before where you learned about my degrees from the universities I attended. They're all state universities. And so here in the United States, we have a very strong separation between church and state. So my entire education, and really when I was younger, I went to public school too, also separation of church and state, I did not get too much spiritual knowledge. And if I had tried to search it out, it's pretty hard to find at a state university. And really, I was a different person back then, so I wouldn't have sought it out. Then I got a job in 2001 at a Catholic university, Christians. And I had been raised Catholic myself, but like I mentioned a minute ago, I wasn't a very spiritual person when I was young, so it didn't quite stick with me. And when I started teaching at that Catholic university, I taught my classes the same exact way I would teach them at a state university. That's how I was taught. After about 4 or 5 years there, Seton Hall University began a brand new initiative that was very controversial. The idea was to have required classes across every major. So in the past, everybody was kind of in their own pocket. So it was a unifying idea to bring all the nurses together with all the business people, together with all the broadcasters. Everybody would take the same 2 classes, one freshman level class and one sophomore level class. And that sounded interesting to me, so I signed up. I signed up to work on the pilot for the very first class. One of the very first books the Catholic University gave me to teach in this new class that's going to be required of everybody was the Bhagavad Gita. And they said they've been teaching it for a while in the honors program, and they were looking forward to an opportunity to spread it across the whole university. It was pretty amazing to me. I learned a lot very quickly, and I started building relationships out of it. So please remember the gift cycle idea, right? Like the Gita exists as a gift in the first place from Krishna to humanity, and then lots of people notice it, not just Hindus. So my Catholic university notices it, picks up that gift and shares it with people, shares it with me, and I share it with students. That was around 2005, 2006 when that started going. I don't know how many thousands of us have read it at Seton Hall now. I don't want to say we're experts on it. We're not Hindus, but we think it's important, and we all read it in the freshman year. So I must have taught at least 500 students about the Bhagavad Gita by now. And also, that started building relationships for me on campus. So I have wonderful Hindu colleagues that I never would have met if I hadn't started studying the Gita and liking it and working on it. So in particular, my colleague from the business school, Dr. Amar, saw my interest and, I guess, potential, and he's just given me a massive boost to my career. He invites me into his research projects. So I've presented on the Gita at the Academy of Management twice now. He's a business professor, so that's where he presents his research. And right now we're working on a third proposal to speak at the Academy of Management. And so again, I'm a communication person. I receive a gift, I give a gift back, and it just starts to bloom and grow. And similarly with Amar. So I'm meeting management scholars now. And then, as you remember from my introduction, I've grown into somebody who directs an institute for communication in religion. And that's something I never could have imagined when I first started my career. I was a, quote, normal communication person. And now, hopefully, I'm a spiritual communication person. So I like to use the Mitchell translation of the Gita because it's poetic, but I know there are many good translations out there, and I'm looking forward to reading some more. So for my context today, what's going on in the Academy of Management is a word you might have heard, or abbreviation you might have heard before. It's called VUCA. If you haven't heard it before, I'll tell you about it in the next couple of slides, but it stands for an imbalanced system, when things are out of balance. The Academy of Management knows our economy is out of balance. They know our corporate culture in general is out of balance in the country. And their solution on how to rebalance it, at least for this year's theme, is to put the worker front and center. And when I said that to some friends, they say things like, well, what does that mean? And I kind of have the same reaction. It's kind of confusing and maybe not even a good idea or possible. And so I'm a little bit critical of this year's theme, and today I'm going to share some of the research I'm doing for that proposal that's really due at the end of the month. My bulk of my talk today is principles from the Bhagavad Gita. I've got 6 questions that bear on good communication. The first question is about context, so I told you I'd tell you about VUCA. The second, third, and fourth questions are spiritual principles from the Gita, and then the 5th and 6th questions are about upright performance in the world. My theses, my main ideas, you already know the first one. Communication is a gift cycle. Giving and receiving patterns in their varying degrees of mutuality. A mutual system tends towards stability and growth, and an imbalanced, non-mutual system trends toward dissolution and decay. And then the Gita helps me think about these things. It helps me unpack them. Krishna's teaching values balance. So when we center our faith in the real, our divine unity, our work can start to support systems and promote transcendence. So here are the 6 questions I'm working with today. First, what's driving our systems out of balance? That's our context. Secondly, how can we fix it? How can we stabilize our systems? Third, what should be front and center? I already raised a question that, especially for large corporations, it's almost impossible to put the worker front and center. So what should be front and center? Next, transcendence. Who are we? Deep down, who are human beings? And then for the practical questions about application, communication is about how we should relate, and work is about how and what should we give. So again, the first, second, third, and fourth questions are spiritual principles from the Gita, and the last 2 questions are practical application questions for real life. I got another question for you all. We know about our own context. Who knows about Arjuna's context? Why does he despair? thought this was an easy one. Okay, he's confused. He doesn't know what to do. Anyone else?
Those people.
Wonderful. He's confused because he's got loved ones coming at him. He's got uncles and teachers fighting an unjust war. So injustice is confusing. Why would anybody do that? Why would you drive the system out of balance? Why would you harm the entire society? And then the extra level about what to do is it's hard to act selflessly. It's hard to stand up to injustice. It's much easier to just follow your own desire and do what you will. So Arjuna's context, I want to say, thankfully I'm not called to battle like he is, but there's lots of injustice around me. I have a VUCA context just like Arjuna has a VUCA context. So like I mentioned, VUCA is an abbreviation. It stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Here's a nice diagram to help you understand. For a low volatility system, you've got kind of a wavy line, but the waves are small. For a high volatility system, you're talking about extreme sweeps for your wave. For the uncertainty, a straight line is very certain, right? You know where that straight line is going. But on the right-hand side, high uncertainty, it could go anywhere in that wedge, and even the edges of the wedge are dotted lines. You don't know exactly where it's going. The low complexity image is nice and simple, right? Only three dots and two lines. The high complexity one is very diverse, right? It's got dots plus triangles plus a diamond, and they're different colors and different lines. And then the ambiguity image is easy to understand too, right? It's not very ambiguous to see a red image, it's red. But the other one, it could be more white than red, and you have to try to figure it out. So we're operating in a high volatility, high uncertainty, high complexity, high ambiguity scenario, very similar, not exactly similar, but very similar to what Arjuna is facing. So when facing injustice, Krishna's teaching is you kind of know where it's coming from. It's coming from greed and desire, people who don't care about the system. So here's a shloka that gets at that idea. Because their minds are overpowered by greed, they see no harm in destroying the family, no crime in treachery to friends. So if we come back to my context, my scholarship, I have to prepare a proposal for the Academy of Management. They want to rebalance because, and this is the quote from their call for papers, the post-pandemic world is witnessing a dramatic shift in workplace power dynamics, a perfect storm of increasingly severe talent shortages and intensified labor activism like the anti-work movement. So when he's talking about this perfect storm, he's talking about things like Brexit, or reduced U.S.-China trade, or the Great Resignation, or the retirement of the baby boom generation. There are so many things rocking our culture, especially in the business sector for our economy, that we're in a VUCA scenario. And in my view, I kind of know it's coming because Krishna already taught me about this stuff. I know that hankering, especially hankering out of proportion, right? Undue profit, hankering for massive income inequality is almost definitely going to drive the system out of balance, and that starts to call for justice. And then sadly, it's not met with justice. It's met with corporate social irresponsibility. So Paula Alexander is a wonderful colleague that works with my friend Dr. Amar that I told you about in the Stillman School of Business at Seton Hall University. That's the title of her book. She studied corporate social irresponsibility, and found a lot of stuff. I'll share just a little bit with you. But one of her main ideas is that anybody who's a member of a larger group, anybody who's a member of a body, there's a stewardship dimension to it. You have a duty to help maintain the whole and keep it running smoothly. Then you look at most management strategy, and it doesn't even acknowledge that the workers are part of the whole. Instead, they're tools to be used, or there's some labor pool, and it's a generic labor pool. It's not like actual people. It's commodified. So this is a diagram from Paula's book. You notice, well, who's at the front and center and the top? Well, it's definitely not the workers. And this isn't just one organization, right? This is corporate America, by extension, which is corporate world. The focus is always on the top. Labor's way over here on the side. It's almost like those people don't work in the organization. They're not in the production block where they actually are. They're in some pool over next to the raw materials. And so Paul Alexander and Dr. Amar have taught me about business, and I'm trying to bring Gita spiritual principles to try to help learn how to deal with this imbalance. So to come out of VUCA with the Gita, I like to quote this shloka. Whenever righteousness falters and chaos threatens to prevail, I take on a human body and manifest myself on earth. In order to protect the good, to destroy the doers of evil, to ensure the triumph of righteousness, in every age am I born. And I especially highlighted the every age down there at the bottom, because I'm not sure when there is a time when cultures get just and stable. It feels like we always have to protect justice. We always have to meet challenges as people are bringing their own agendas to our social systems. So now we're ready for my first big question. We balance by, and this is the knowledge that I've developed from systems theory. So systems theory is important in the world of communication. We study systems to find out how they integrate people. And if you've been following any of the Twitter controversy lately, you might know some of this stuff. Twitter is just literally not a product. It's an ecology. It's where we live. It's where we connect. And, not all of us, but just extend beyond Twitter, right? So the social media sphere, it's not a thing. Instead, it's a zone. It's a zone where we live. And that health of the zone is something that's in the best interest of everybody. So a way to think about ecologies, a way to think about systems, is something that's balanced and interdependent. So this diagram on the right-hand side here, it's not precise, but everybody's roughly equal size, and it's a round shape of equality. And in the biggest picture, for like a more complex diagram of a system, parts come together to form wholes. And that means that they mutually make up one another. They mutually constitute one another. When I'm teaching my students this one, I try to thank them. I tell them, I'm not a teacher unless I have students. You constitute me. You make me into who I am. And so that gift of attending to what I say, listening, I try to respond to that gift cycle. I try to give them my best. That's what keeps the system whole. And so for communication, we should focus on interconnection, synergy, where we start to get beyond just the parts and start to do things that are unpredictable because we have such a complex and strong, unified whole. And then I think you know the contrast, right? Most of us are used to our culture. We have an ego logic where imbalance is kind of not a problem. So here's Christopher Chase's diagram for the ego logic. It's still kind of abstract, but it is different from the other one. Like you notice, of course it's a pyramid, right? But the man at the top, the icon for man is bigger than the one in the ecological one. And I'm pretty sure the woman is smaller. And so this one starts to get us to say, Krishna, please help. And Krishna says things like, he who fails to keep turning the wheel, thus set in motion, has damaged the working of the world and has wasted his life. And I don't want to waste my life. I want to turn the wheel. I want to try to build ecologies rather than live at the the top of the pyramid. Another balanced theme from the Gita is Krishna himself, right? So creator and destroyer equals all. So the Gita teaches a holistic divine process. And so for a couple of shlokas to help us think about that one, it's all, the whole universe is born within me and within me will be destroyed. Both creation and destruction of the entire universe. And then another theme I like with this one, another shloka is, I am death and the deathless. All that is or is not. What we're getting at here is one system and a challenge to all of us to act for the whole system, the whole world, not our own will. Round out this one, Krishna says, if I stopped acting, these worlds would plunge into ruin. Chaos would overpower all beings. Mankind would be destroyed. Though the unwise cling to their actions, watching for results, that was that utilitarian means-end approach to communication I mentioned at the beginning, the wise are free of attachments and act for the well-being of the whole world. Next, I want to talk about centering. A great way to think about centering is with a potter's wheel, this image background. What should be at that center? The Academy management says put the worker front and center because the managers have been front and center for too long. I don't think either of them should go there. Instead, God should go at the center. Faith should go at the center. So this shloka gets at that idea. Those who love and revere me with unwavering faith, always centering their minds on me, they are the most perfect in yoga. And so to try to get at that one, I want to tell you a little bit about the Contemplative Community Initiative that I'm helping to run at Seton Hall University. I already told you we're a Catholic university. All of the faculty, all the people who work there, were not all Catholics. And so there's a Orthodox spirituality for the organization for the people who are Catholic, but for everybody else, what is there? Gradually we figured out that not enough. So my colleague Pat Manning and I, who is a theologian, a Catholic theologian, says, let's do something more broad. Let's do something that's not straight up Catholic. Let's do something that's non-sectarian and can help everybody develop their spirituality. So we call it the Contemplative Community Initiative. We have a peace workshop scheduled for next semester. That's part of it. Right now I want to tell you about a very small part of it. We've been teaching each other non-sectarian meditation. And so now I and several of my other colleagues start every class session with a very simple centering meditation. First I tell my students to stretch. Then I tell my students to work on their posture and connect their spine to the heavens. And then I ask them to set an intention. I say, for 1 minute, let's all work on mental discipline and focus. When we want to dwell on feelings or think of other ideas, we'll note that and return to our breath. Everybody take 1 minute, go. I've only been doing that 2 years now. I get a lot of positive feedback from my students. Mental health has been a challenge, especially through the pandemic. And so teaching them nice, simple techniques really helps. And then beyond my own classes are relatively low stress. We have a giant college of nursing. Many of them are trauma nurses. Teaching a nurse how to clear their mind in between patients is an incredible gift. And so again, we're trying to center, right? We're trying to teach people to have disciplined minds and be in control of those minds in the moment. We don't make it sectarian, but Krishna agrees, right? Resolute understanding is single-pointed. The thoughts of the irresolute, the undisciplined, are many-branched and endless. And then to head us into the next point, this is really one of my favorite shlokas. Performing all actions for my sake, desireless, absorbed in the self, indifferent to I and mind, let go of your grief and fight. And then, as I mentioned before, thankfully, most of us are not called to actual battle, but we have challenges in front of us all the time. Injustice is in front of us all the time. Let go of your grief and fight. My last understanding point is about transcendence. If you remember, this one is about who we are at the most basic, deep level. My field, I cite Kenneth Burke. He wrote a very famous book called The Rhetoric of Religion. My field is religious rhetoric. He's a foundational guy. He is not on Krishna's side. He understands that identification is important, but he doesn't believe it actually happens. He says that fundamentally we're divided. Fundamentally there is space between us. We have physical bodies. We are not physically merged. And hopefully one of my contributions to my field, and to anybody else who wants to listen, is that identification is possible. We can overcome our gulf in division. Krishna, again, would agree. Wisdom, radiance, and peace, they're not somewhere out there. They're already within us. And then this phrase, nearer than near, gets at some of the limits of language, right? It's almost like you can't put this into language, but you have to try to communicate it. So when I think about this, I like to think of the water image in the background, right? So especially if this pool of water is infinite, then it's got no edge, right? And then the sage is like the drop of water uniting with the pool. It's an infinite image of identity between humanity. And the contrasts are very familiar, right? So dualistic thinking is foundational for Western thought. Logic is built on the principle of non-contradiction that says something can't be both X and non-X at the same time. Krishna disagrees. Yes, it can. So the presence that pervades the universe is imperishable, unchanging, and beyond both is and is not. How could it ever vanish? And then here's another one on this idea. The scriptures dwell in duality. It took me a while to get this one. What I think it means is that scriptures are still language, so they still start to fall prey to some of that logic that is dualistic. Be beyond all opposites. Arjuna, anchored in the real and free from all thoughts of wealth and comfort. And then also, I'm sure you've noticed that American culture is individualistic, so this is transcendence idea pushes against individualism. The wise man who's cleansed of sins has cut off all separation. He delights in the welfare of all beings. That's how we vanish into God's bliss. And right action itself is renunciation. As we renounce our own will, that's how we start to get over individualism and start acting for the benefit of the entire world. So to try to do a little bit of summary here, I've covered a bunch of stuff. I think you remember the context is VUCA. It's imbalanced based on desire. It makes our systems volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. How can we meet that? We can have spiritual understanding. First, we can study, right? So guided by the scriptures, we understand, then we can act uprightly. So what can we understand? We can understand balance is important. And then what stabilizes and supports systems? It's that selfless action, acting for the well-being of the whole world. For centering, what should be front and center? Do you remember this one? God, fantastic. Faith, right? Devoted faith, with unwavering faith, always centering their minds on me. And then the third question here under understanding is transcendence. Who are we deep down inside? We're one divine spirit. When we delight in the welfare of all beings, we vanish into God's bliss. And then to try to apply this, there are two active arts that we can strive for upright performance. For me, they're inseparable. The first is communication. How should we speak and relate to one another? And the second is work. What should we give to our systems, and how should we give it? Here's a nice picture to help us think about communication. It's pretty different from the earlier diagrams I did, right? Communication and relating. Arjuna doesn't know what to do, so he directly asks. Arjuna's confused. He directly asks Krishna, how would you describe the man whose wisdom is steadfast? How does the wise man speak? How does he sit stand, and walk. And then, of course, Krishna answers the questions, right? He's not going to let Arjuna sit in confusion. The overall idea I get at here is that whatever communication is coming out, it should be trying to enact duty and perform justice. That's the sage leader, the wise leader. Notice what it's not doing. It's not arguing with people who don't get it. So the wise man does not unsettle the minds of the ignorant. Instead, quietly acting in the spirit of yoga, he inspires them to do the same. So for me, this is leadership by example. It's not about strategic words. It's about stepping up and being that example of justice. The leaders are going to set the standards. People are going to follow. So we need to step up and act and do the hard work of justice. And then the reverse is sad, right? Silence in the face of injustice is collusion. Denying injustice is delusion. And refusing to learn about the injustice in front of your face starts to become morally culpable. These are serious things to communicate about. So how can we do that? We can speak faithfully. And this, for the Gita, it's not just words or symbols. It's fully embodied. It's a physical performance. So they all go together. Right next to the control of the body is control of speech, is control of mind. They're inseparable. They all go together. So honoring the gods, the priests, the teachers, and sages, purity, nonviolence, and uprightness, all of this is control of the body. Speaking the truth with kindness, honesty that causes no pain, and the recitation of scripture, this is control of speech. Serenity, gentleness, silence, benevolence, self-restraint, purity of being, compassion, this is control of the mind. They always have to go together, body, mind, and speech. When you do that, you start to perform to a divine standard. Your speech is performed as worship, when we offer up the best of ourselves. So ideally, all characteristics go together, right? So speech as worship needs to be true, kindly, honest, nonviolent, and faithful. To come to the image on the right-hand side here, if we remember that our communication, we're communicating our ideas, right? We're sharing our ideas. They're wondrous gifts. As we attend to one another's gifts, we can begin a love system, a love cycle. Upright speech is what gets that going. So these people here on the right, they're growing their systems together, right? They're growing their flowers together. And so I'd ask everybody to please try. It doesn't need to be perfect, but we need to try, right? Let's communicate for the truth, reality, and the well-being of everybody. Communication is, of course, closely tied to work. So what's work? If you took a physics class, you know that power is work over time. And so we're talking about power, energy, and force when we discuss work. Here's the physics equation to help you remember it. They're always inseparable. They're always together. Power, work, and time go together. Power equals work over time. Krishna has wonderful teaching on this. It's so generous. You don't have to do it all. Just do some good work. Nobody who does good work will come to an evil end. And then I already criticized this idea of the worker front and center, right? The work is something that's kind of throughout the organization, right? Managers are workers. I'm a teacher. I'm a worker. Let's try to unify the organization by getting past those divisions. So instead of saying management, the worker, it might be something like, well, we're all co-workers. We have different functions in the organization, but we're all working together. That's what I mean when I say mutuality. We're mutually responsible for the success of the organization. We can balance our power dynamics that way. And then for the time part of the equation, Krishna's time is now. Justice calls right then. Arjuna is facing a challenge right in front of him, right? He has the benefit of a frozen moment to talk to Krishna about it, but the frozen moment's going to end, and he's going to have to fight. So we can give our power right now in the moment. How? First, have some knowledge, right? Know what your duty is. Your duty is centering. Your duty is balance. Your duty is transcendence. Do it right now, without hesitation. For a warrior, there's nothing better than a battle that duty enjoins. Blessed are warriors who are given the chance of a battle like this, which calls them to do what's right and opens the gates of heaven. He's facing an unjust war. It would be tragedy for a leader like Arjuna to flee, because everybody else would follow him and flee. The country would crash. Lastly, remember the work as worship theme. We offer up our best as worship. When we operate on our own desires, we very quickly become slaves to them. We become addicted to our own will. So the whole world is slave to its own activity. If you want to be truly free, perform all actions as worship. So this brings me to my conclusion. I'm just going to restate what I said before, right? So you know that the first thesis is communication is a gift cycle. And our giving and receiving patterns can get balanced with mutuality. They can grow. But when we imbalance them, we tend to trend them toward dissolution and decay. And then Krishna's teaching on work is wonderful. It teaches us how to value balance, how to center ourselves in the real, how to see our divine unity, and that's when we can use our power and work to support systems and promote human transcendence. The points, don't be surprised. VUCA is everywhere. It was in front of Arjuna. It's in front of us. How do you face it? With spiritual wisdom and upright action. Let go of your grief and fight. Spiritual understanding, I did 3 points there, right? So selfless action is what balances. Desire is what skews. For centering, devoted faith should be at the center. Irresolute thoughts are just going to keep branching endlessly. Unity is what can transcend, and dualities are delusion. And then for the practical stuff, for the upright action, remember that enlightened communication integrates through that gift cycle. And the opposite, lies, malice, and blasphemy, are what divide us. And then worshipful work offers up our time and our energy. Desirous work is what drives the VUCA systems, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So to wrap up, I've got a benediction. The benediction was selected by my student, Sophie Husky. I told all my students, I'm going to Dallas to talk about the Gita. Would any of you like to share a shloka with them and tell them why it's important? And several of them stepped up, and Sophie picked this one. Whoever, clear-minded, knows me as the ultimate person, knows all that is truly worth knowing, and he loves me with all his heart. I pulled one quote. She wrote an essay on this, but I pulled one quote. Sophie says, the thought of complete devotion in one's faith is very important to me because it shows loyalty as well as a steadfast belief that I find comforting. So I'm giving Sophie the last word. I'll say thank you to you all, and if you'd like to download the slides, there's a link, and I'm happy to give it to you on paper if you need that too. Thank you so much.
Dr. Radwan, that was an excellent, insightful speech on communication work. I love the way how you described communication as a gift cycle. Very new perspective. Thank you so much. And love the way how you connected imbalance, or balance rather, and the other two themes, transcendence and centering, and how Krishna's teachings are inspiring us about communication and work. So beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's see if there are any questions in the audience. I do have a couple of questions, but I want to give a preference to the audience here. Yes, Mohitji, come on over.
Radhe Radhe, Dr. Rodin. I'm one of the Bhagavad Gita teachers here at the temple. And one of the things I always talk to the kids about is communication. From your perspective, what are those key communication principles that young kids and youth need to keep in mind as they go through life?
Okay. Youth today have challenges that I didn't have when I was growing up. The machines are everywhere. And like I tried to mention near the beginning, the machines are built to cross gaps. They're built to cross gulfs. So they're tools. And they have their place. It's not like don't use them. But if all of your communication is oriented toward those tools to reach across a gulf, you're missing out on a lot. You're missing out on love. And so for children, really basic stuff, like let's physically turn toward one another as we speak. Let's make direct eye contact. And when things are going well, let's hug. Let's love. So there's more to it, but mostly the kids, sadly, are getting cell phones younger and younger and younger. And that's damaging their ability to connect, damaging their ability to relate.
Thank you.
Any other questions here in the audience? All right, while you think about it, I have one question for you, and that is, in this world of social media, if you're talking to someone in person, you are able to connect, but frequently we have several opportunities these days on communicating to your audience on social media, especially when you have a fundraiser like the one we are doing right now. How do you persuade people to act? How do you communicate in such a way that they see the need, the urgency, while you are not able to connect with them in person?
Okay. First off, that is one of the major benefits of online communication. The GoFundMe phenomenon is wonderful. People who might not otherwise know about your cause can easily learn about it. And in the 20th century, all media are owned by elites, so only certain people are doing mass campaigns to raise funds for certain causes. Now we can all raise funds for causes. So great, it's a tool. Let's use it. How do we use it? I want to say it comes back to that fundamental gift type of thing, right? So if you're taking money from people and not giving anything back, that's not a sustainable system. It needs to be responded to, right? So as somebody makes a donation, it should start to build a relationship, right? Rather than just have their name being in a database. And it is labor intensive, right? Somebody needs to be on the receiving end and sincerely try to connect with the donors. If you can do that, that starts to build a system, right? It starts to build a system of relationships, and it's that gift cycle. So you couldn't be here, but you sent me some money. The least I can do is reach out back to you, tell you how much I appreciate it, smile at you, invite you to come when you can. That type of orientation toward fundraising, I think, is kind of too rare, especially with GoFundMe. It's not built into it. You have to do it yourself.
Thank you so much. That was great. Any other questions here? Yes, Bhavanaji, come on over.
Radhe Radhe, Dr. Radwan. Thank you so much for the amazing presentation. As we're talking about the communication, how we can learn from Bhagavad Gita. So for working professionals, how you think we can take the Bhagavad Gita principles in our life when we are communicating with our coworkers, colleagues, and friends? Thank you.
Excellent question. Everybody's part of organizations, right? Krishna's advice is to lead by example. So showing people how to do it right is like the first step. Remember not to argue with the ignorant. You're not going to fix them. Instead, show the way with upright action. And then for the speech part, it's communication ethics. It's got to be true. It's got to be kindly. And if you're a spiritual person, it's got to be faithful and godly. As we set that example, people will follow. And, you know, in my experience, no, not everybody, but enough. Enough that we can start pockets where, sometimes it's called workplace well-being. I can't, even at a nice university like mine, I can't count on the organization to do it for me. I've got to try to lead by example. And so that was the contemplative community initiative I described before, where it's bottom up. It's a dozen faculty who say, this is important, and we understand the Orthodox stuff for the Catholics is over there. We're not going to interfere with that, but we're going to try to provide a zone where we're leading by example. We'll show people how to get centered by teaching meditation. We'll teach people about bonding by inviting them in. We'll teach about learning from wisdom by reading scripture. So like I mentioned, our peace workshop, we're reading Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Thich Nhat Hanh, and Howard Thurman. next semester. It's completely outside of class and outside of our normal jobs. We take time out of our normal jobs to show people, how it's done and invite them in. Lead by example.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We may have time for just one more question. Let me ask you that. It's about relationship. How do you use communication as a tool to build relationships?
It's not a tool. What is it?
It's a gift. Sorry.
All right. So that's that first step. Let go of the idea of tools. Communication is not, or you can use it as a tool, but as you do, you buy into division, and really it's utilitarian, and why would you use tools on your loved ones? So drop the idea of tool, try to get into the idea of gift. Gift is what builds relationships. So I didn't put the shloka in the presentation, but Krishna talks about if you're not giving back in, it's like you're a thief. You're stealing out. And really that's, unfortunately, too many relationships are utilitarian. They're exploitative. They're trying to pull energy out of somebody else and profit off of it. And then a genuine relationship is a mutual gift cycle where we share of ourselves, we extend self toward the other. It doesn't always work, but when it does work, it's synergy, it's magic, it's wonderful. So that's the main thing. Try not to think about tools. Try to think about gifts.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, our sincere gratitude to you for coming over all the way from New Jersey here and joining us and making this occasion very special for us. Thank you so much for your time. We have 2 more programs lined up for everybody. One is a special program by kids, followed by a pravachan by Swami Aparaajitaananda ji. So please hang on. We'll be starting very soon here.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Once again, a very warm welcome for the happy Gita Jayanti to all of you. What a great opportunity offered by the Radha Krishna temple to celebrate this amazing event that happened 5,000 years with all of us. We held the Pothi Yatra yesterday, and we had amazing eminent speakers as of today also. And this goes on today being the day 2 of the 4-day Gita Jayanti event. We hope you guys are as excited as some of these kids, and we all are. These are by the way, quick introduction. I am Tanya. I am a volunteer at the Radha Krishna temple. Mohit and I are facilitators for the Bhagavad Gita class as well. And we have about 60 children in the class in our year 1 and year 2 classes. What you see here is a few of them which are local kids to Dallas. And I really want to appreciate all the parents who took the opportunity. And I know during Thanksgiving break, they all prepared very hard and came up with this skit. So there's a full packed agenda, and I will pass it on to Mohit to share more about what we will see in the next 40 minutes.
Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. So both as a parent and as a facilitator of the Bhagavad Gita class, Tanya and I both firmly believe in implementing the knowledge. So our performance tonight is a myriad of different type of things that we're going to show you. But first, the most exciting thing, and there's a lot of effort that's been put across the whole board, but there will be a skit at some point here in the middle of the whole performance where kids are going to demonstrate some of the challenges that they often encounter and how to use the principles of the Gita to actually overcome these hurdles. There will also be some shloka recital. We are picking and choosing some of the shlokas that we're reading in the class, but we've selected a handful for the Gita Jayanti celebration today. And then finally, we have 4 students who are going to give a speech on some of the learnings that they've had and how they've actually implemented them in daily life. And that's something you might really enjoy, Dr. Roden. These kids had a very limited amount of time for this performance, but they worked tremendously hard. So I'm sure you will enjoy it. I humbly request that all the parents and the kids in the audience stay quiet for the duration of the performance. And then to kick things off, how we usually start our class is with a vandana, a class prayer. So we're going to go ahead and do that today as well. Let's have the kids on the stage.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasvishvasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum.
That was wonderful. A round of applause for the kids.
recitation and translation. And for that, can I have Anishka, Arjun, and Shivi on the stage? Anishka, Arjun, and Shivi.
Dehinosmin yata dehe Kaumaram yovanam jara Tatha dehantara praptir Dhirastatranamuyati. Childhood to youth to old age. Similarly, at the time of death, the soul passes on to another body. The wise are not deluded by this. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbu ma te sangosta karmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha Tangasteshu pajayate Sangat sanjayate kamaha Kamat krodho bijayate.
While contemplation on the object of the senses, one develops attachment to them. Attachment leads to desire, and from desire arises anger.
Very good. Thank you so much. This is Anishka, Arjun, and Shivi. Thank you, guys. You did really well. All right. So next, we are going to have our first student speaker. Remember, what Hasmita is going to do is talk a little bit about her own experience in the Bhagavad Gita class and one of the key principles that speaks to her and how she's implemented it in daily life. Hasmita, go ahead.
Radhe Radhe everyone. My name is Hasmita Tatavarti and I'm in 9th grade. This is my second year attending the Gita class, and I also attend the Sunday Satsang and the youth club here at the temple. Being in 9th grade made me realize how the real world is. There's a lot of peer pressure, a lot of bullying, and there's also a lot of attachment. But this class has helped me realize and understand and work my way through these problems. But today, I'm going to specifically talk about attachment. So have you ever had this nervous feeling before or during a test? Or that little spark of exam jitters? I feel like this every time. But this class has helped me find a solution because I learned a key value from the class, which is the NATO principle, which in the Bhagavad Gita is explained as verse 2.47. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturpur ma te sangotsva karmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you're not entitled to the fruits of your action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the result of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. I'm always worried that I'm going to fail or I didn't study properly. But recently, I've been trying to implement this principle, not attached to the outcome. I'm not a total expert at it yet, but I'm trying. While I'm taking a test, I tell myself, if you put in your best efforts, then you don't have to care about the result. It's in how much effort you put in that your result will reflect upon. The verse says that I should not care about the result, but it never said that I should not put in my effort. So I put in extra time and effort into studying and making sure I understand my topic. This verse, 2.47, should be remembered 24/7 is what my dad taught me, and it helps me remember this value all day long. I am very grateful for this piece of knowledge and to the class that taught me. The Bhagavad Gita class I attend is specifically designed for kids and orchestrated in a way where our teacher can take the deepest and complex topics, but explain it in a way where little kids can easily understand and implement this. I am also very thankful for Swamiji for being my guru and helping me change into a better person and making him my entire world. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful. Well done, Hasmita. Next, we are going to have Janvi do the same thing in her own experience and in her own words. Janvi, go ahead.
Radhe Radhe and Happy Gita Jayanti. My name is Janvi. I'm in 5th grade and I'm 11 years old. First, I want to say that I'm very lucky to study this amazing book at the temple as it's helped me a lot. On this occasion of Gita Jayanti, I would like to share a couple of key learnings from the Bhagavad Gita and how they're helping me become a better person. The first one is that I'm the soul, and the second one is how I'm able to cope and deal with challenges. After reading the Bhagavad Gita, I know that I'm the soul, not the body. Trying to implement this has been hard because I often forget, but when it's remembered, it can be very helpful. To know that no one can hurt me, especially at an age where children are often teasing each other, this knowledge has been very useful. It has made me more confident and resilient at school. Another thing is when you know that you're the soul and so is everyone around you, and the soul is part of God, then you end up being kinder and nicer to everyone around you. Earlier this week, I was really angry at my friend for doing something I had specifically told her not to do, and I was about to blow up on her. But instead, I thought about the Gita's teachings, and I was able to calm myself down and talk to her in a calm and composed way. The second learning for me has been how to deal with problems. We heard Sri Krishna say it over and over to Arjuna, that problems are a blessing and are there to help us grow. If I anticipate and expect problems and put them into perspective, I can do a better job of facing them. Hearing this repeatedly has changed my perspective on how to deal with tough situations at school and with my own parents. I am able to put things in perspective. In fact, now even small problems or big problems don't seem as big as they did before. I also try to figure out what I'm supposed to learn when a problem comes up, because now I understand these situations are there to teach me something. Lastly, I feel very fortunate to study the Bhagavad Gita. Our family began to come to this temple because of a Bhagavad Gita kids class. I was 7 at the time and I'm 11 now. These last 4 years have been incredible and I've already learned so much. I would like to express my gratitude to Swamiji for all that he does for us and the knowledge that he's given us. Wishing you all a happy Gita Jayanti. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful. Very nice, Hasmita and Janvi. You know, I always get jealous of these young kids getting access to this knowledge early in life. If I had only had that, I don't know what I would have been able to accomplish. We are now going to go ahead and go to our second group who is going to perform shlokas, and that is Abhaya, Siddharth, and Aditi, I think. I can't read this writing.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever there is a decline in the righteousness and an increase in the unrighteousness, O Arjun, at that time I manifest myself on earth.
Brahmarpanam
Brahma Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina.
For those who are absorbed in God consciousness, the oblation is Brahman, the ladle is Brahman, the act of offering is Brahman, and even the sacrificial fire is Brahman. Those who see God in everything will easily obtain Him. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninastatvadarshinaha. Learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquiring from him with reverence, and rendering service unto him. Such an enlightened saint can impart knowledge onto us because he has seen the truth.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Manodurnigraham Chadam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grihyate.
Lord Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, what you say is correct. The mind is indeed very difficult to restrain, but by practice and detachment, it can be controlled.
Thank you, Abhaya, Siddharth, and Aditi. Okay, now we get to a part of the program that is going to require us to set up the stage. So we're going to take a couple of minutes. Our volunteers are going to go ahead and set up the stage. And in the meantime, just hang still. It'll probably take 60 seconds for us to do that.
In this skit, we will demonstrate an ordinary day of school, where students encounter circumstances that challenge these in unique ways. You will see Bhakti face bullying and rejection from her peers, and how she reacts to the situation when she forgets who she is. She's the soul, not the body. And then, we will demonstrate how a simple degree of awareness and remembrance of the principles of the Bhagavad Gita will help Bhakti overcome these challenges. In this first scene, Bhakti is at home and is about to head to school.
Bye, Bhakti. Have a good day. Love you. What a coincidence. I love me too. Bhakti. I'm joking. My love for you is like diarrhea. I just can't hold it in. Oh, beta. That sounds like something only you would say. Mama, I just did my hair. Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe, Ma. Oh, beta, remember to finish your paratha. Okay, bye.
She is now sitting in her classroom, focused on studying for her upcoming exam. Suddenly, bam! Something from the back of the classroom hits Bhakti in the head.
As all of you know, this world is a result of the big explosion of space itself. We'll have a test on this soon, so prepare. Ow! Does anyone have anything to say?
Nothing at all.
Stop it! Hush! Quiet, everyone. You guys are like candy bars. Half sweet and half nuts.
As the students laugh, more paper wads and other objects from the classroom come at Bhakti when the teacher is not looking. Bhakti goes on, trying to focus on her work while dodging paper wads and erasers. This goes on for the remainder of class. Eventually class is over, and students move to the hallways, where Bhakti confronts the bullies and they taunt her further.
What's the deal, guys? What was that for? When did I ever do anything to you? Who gave you the right to throw things at me? We don't need permission to do things like you do, nerd. Who cares? You're such a weirdo. Chill, it was an accident, loser. Come on, let's go. Get wrecked.
Bhakti walks away, looking sad and frustrated from the bullies as the school day ends. In this next scene, Bhakti is at home again after a tough day of feeling low.
Bhakti, how was your day, beta? Why do you care? Beta, tell me what happened. You're usually so happy when you come home. Who put vinegar in your chai? Nothing happened, Ma. I'm getting bullied at school. They keep throwing things at me. I don't have a lot of friends and I'm not popular. Is there something wrong with me? Calm down, Bhakti. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. I want you to take deep breaths. Do you remember what you learned in Bhagavad Gita class? The Bhagavad Gita says in verse 2.23, weapons cannot shred the soul, nor can fire burn it. Water cannot wet it, nor can the wind dry it. Think about what this verse is saying, Bhakti. They cannot see you. They cannot do anything to you. You are the soul. I want you to think about that and implement it.
The next scene, the same thing happens as the day before. The bullying continues. This time, Bhakti follows the advice that she was given and remembers the shloka her mom reviewed with her the day before.
Hey, I don't appreciate what you're doing. You're being mean. Please don't do that. If this continues, I will report you to the teacher. How would you feel if I did the same to you? Whatever, nerd. Okay, sorry.
As the day goes on, the other bullies feel like teasing Bhakti as it seems to get her riled up. However, the first bully took Bhakti's words to heart and talked them out of being mean to her and being nicer to others.
Hey, let's tease Bhakti again. It was so much fun. I know, right? The teacher doesn't even care about what's happening. Let's tease her again.
No, let's not do this. We could get in trouble. I also don't feel good about teasing her. Everyone has some good in them. Let's all be nicer to Bhakti.
School day is over and Bhakti returns home, excited to tell her mother about her success in standing up for herself and not being bothered by the bullies.
Mama, guess what happened today? Oh, Bhakti, I didn't think you'd return this happy. What is it? Ma, thank you so much for sharing that verse from the Bhagavad Gita. I could stand up to the bullies and implement the advice you gave me. Really? Wow, beta, I'm so proud of you. The Gita will help you a lot in life, and whenever you have problems, you can refer to it as your guide. Okay, Ma, let me start reading the Gita right now.
From then on, not only did Bhakti finish the book and start implementing the Gita in her life, but she also gave copies to some of her friends, family, and teachers. Since then, the Bhagavad Gita has always been Bhakti's guide in life.
The end. Good job, you guys. Very well done. They only had 3 practices in the last 7 days. Thank you. Pranav, Viriksha, and Shiva.
Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmarayudhyacha mayyarpitamano buddhi mame vaishayasya sanshayam.
Ananya. Therefore, always remember Sri Krishna and always do your duty of fighting the war. With mind and intellect surrendered to Krishna, you will definitely attain Krishna. Of this, there is no doubt.
Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate Tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham.
There are those who always think of me and engage in exclusive devotion to me. To them whose minds are always absorbed in me, I provide what they lack and preserve what they already possess.
Mayeva mana athatsa May buddhim niveshaya Nivasishyahi mayeva Atha urtvam na sanshayaha.
Fix your mind on me, alone, and surrender your intellect to me. Thereupon you will always live in me. Of this there is no doubt.
Mame vansho jiva loke Jiva bhutas sanatanaha Manashashthani indriyani Prakritisthani karshati. The embodied souls in this material world are my eternal fragment parts. But bound by material nature, they are struggling with the six senses, including the mind.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Another round of applause for them. I still have a hard time doing some of these shlokas, and these kids just make me look so wimpy. We have two more speeches, and then we'll wrap things up. So the next youth, I would say in this case, she is a youth, is Yashvi, and she is going to talk about how the Bhagavad Gita has impacted her life. Yashvi?
Radhe Radhe everyone. My name is Yashvi. I'm a 7th grader. It's my pleasure to be part of the Bhagavad Gita celebration. I would like to express my sincere gratitude towards respected Swamiji for blessing us with his divine knowledge. I've been associated with Radha Krishna Temple for close to a year now. I'm a student of the Bhagavad Gita first year class hosted by Mohat Uncle and Tanya Auntie. Thank you, Mohat Uncle and Tanya Auntie, for teaching the Song of God. Bhagavad Gita is indeed a song, a deep statement of truth, concise, profound, and highly inspiring. These classes are helping me understand the essence of ancient Indian teachings and the relevance of these teachings in modern times. The discussions we have in class help me better understand the shlokas, their application in day-to-day life. Although there are many takeaways from the Bhagavad Gita, I would like to mention one verse from my learning so far. This is chapter 2, verse 47, where Krishna says to Arjuna, "You have the right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruit of your actions. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the result of your activities, nor be attached to inaction." This verse offers meaningful insight into the proper spirit of work. Focus on your work, not the results. I've tried to implement this in my daily life, and I've seen the benefit. As a student, I have weekly tests, and I also participate in many extracurriculars. Before joining the Bhagavad Gita classes and learning this verse, I used to get very concerned regarding the outcome. But after attending these sessions, I've learned to detach myself from the outcome, and this has helped me focus entirely on the efforts. Doing this has increased my productivity, and the results are even better than before. This little gem of wisdom has changed my approach towards any task at hand, from worrying about the results to trying my best. This is just one learning from this ocean of knowledge. The Bhagavad Gita is truly a treasure chest of wisdom. I encourage everyone to join and benefit from the Bhagavad Gita classes. This is a virtual session conducted every week on Friday evenings, U.S. Central Time. I seek the blessings of Swamiji and Hari to continue on this spiritual path. Thank you, everyone. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful, Yashvi. Thank you so much. What a deep speech. Okay, our last speaker, but not least, is Jia. Jia, come on up.
Radhe Radhe, my name is Jia. I'm in 5th grade and I'm 11 years old. I've been coming for the temple for about 4 years now, and it's become a significant part of my life. Not only is it the source of my bhakti, but I have friends here and also come from many celebrations. Before I start, I'd like to thank Swamiji for all he does for us and the gyan he shares with us. Swamiji has a huge role in helping us progress and increase our devotion. Today, I'll share a few personal experiences and my number one takeaway from the Bhagavad Gita class. While I have learned many things from the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most valuable learnings from it is how to involve God in every aspect of my life. I think it's one of the most significant and crucial steps to attaining our ultimate goal. On a daily basis, I dedicate 30 minutes after school to do Rup Dhyan meditation on God and Guru, and I watch one of Swamiji's lectures. Not only does this reinforce key values of the Gita, but it also helps increase my bhakti and be more aware. By doing this, I'm able to bring spirituality and devotion into my daily life. I try to keep my mind absorbed in God as much as I can. In addition to the 30 minutes of sadhana, multiple times a week, I try to do kirtan at home with my family. Collectively, we have a devotional satsang at home. I really enjoy music, but I especially love leading the kirtans and being a part of it in general. This allows me to have a certain time dedicated to connecting with Radha and Krishna. It also comes very naturally to me, so much so that whenever I am at school, home, or anywhere else, I often find myself humming one of Sri Maharaji's kirtans. I also love coming to the temple to do kirtan seva once a week. If you want to hear some kirtans, you can come on Thursdays at 7 p.m. If you don't want to come for the kirtans, you can at least come for the dosa. It's a really big blessing to be able to come to the temple and study the Bhagavad Gita. When we started coming to the temple, and especially at Sunday satsang, I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't as meaningful to me. In other words, coming to the temple was ritualistic. But as we kept coming back weekly and started to attend the various events, of which there are many, it started to make a huge difference. I have an opportunity to get true satsang here. It was only after I started coming here that I realized the value of being on this spiritual path and how we can keep progressing so that one day we can reach Radha and Krishna. I hope to continue to keep growing on this path and learning more from the Bhagavad Gita. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Jia. And that concludes our program. Before we end, I want to just have a big round of applause for all the students and the volunteers. They did a lot of hard work preparing for this. Thank you so much, everybody. And can we just have very quickly the students and the volunteers up on the stage for a second here? We're going to just make sure that we take a quick photo. And then, for those of you that are online, please don't go away. We have one more event for our second day, and you should stay tuned for Swami Aparaajitaananda ji. He will be coming up next. Thank you, Radhe Radhe, and enjoy the rest of the Bhagavad Gita Summit.
यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे.
Namaste and Radhe Radhe. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you to JKYog Bhagavad Gita Summit. I'm really honored and excited about this session with Swami Aparaajitaananda on the topic cultivation of devotion through Bhagavad Gita. Radhe Radhe, Pranam, Namaste Swamiji. So happy to have you with us, and thank you so much for making time to be a part of this Bhagavad Gita Summit. I would like to give a short introduction for you, and then we will start on your talk, followed by some question-answer session. Pujya Swami Aparaajitaananda joined Chinmaya Mission as full-time Acharya after successful completion of intensive 2-year Vedanta course at Sandipani Sandalaya, Mumbai in the year 2018. Swami Aparaajitaananda in his Purvashram was an electronics and communication engineer. Swamiji has conducted several discourses in different parts of the country, including in reputed institutions like IIT Mumbai. He is a regular contributor to various magazines and has also penned 4 books, Read Daily, Live Fully, Gurudev's Quotes with Explanations, Part 1 and 2, and Indispensable Values. His articles, commentaries, and books are greatly appreciated by all. Swamiji has served Chinmaya Mission Centers in Karnataka, Bangalore, Mysore, and Shimoga. At present, he is serving the Mission Center at Mangalore. He has conducted numerous online talks, question and answer sessions, workshops, and discourses on Vedantic texts for the benefit of seekers across all age groups in India and abroad. It is my honor and privilege to welcome Swami Aparaajitaananda. Now I request Swamiji to begin his talk.
ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अनन्तरूपा अनन्तनामा आदिमूला नारायणा अनन्तरूपा शयना हे जगन्नाथा कमलनयना हे माधवा अनन्तशयना हे जगन्नाथा कमलनयना हे माधवा करुणासागर कालियनर्तन करुणासागर कालियनर्तन हे दया सिन्धो कृष्णा हे दया सिन्धो अनन्तरूपा अनन्तनाम आदिमूला नारायण विश्वरूपा विश्वाधारा विश्वेश्वर हे नारायणा विश्वरूपा विश्वाधारा विश्वेश्वर हे नारायणा भवभयहरणा दीनोद्धरणा भवभयहरणा दीनोद्धरणा हे कृपा सिन्धो कृष्णा हे कृपा सिन्धो अनन्तरूपा अनन्तनाम आदिमूला नारायण आदिमूला नारायण Humble prostrations to one and all present here. On this auspicious occasion of Gita Jayanti, we are going to discuss the topic of devotion that is the main theme in this summit. So we'll be discussing this topic of devotion based on Bhagavad Gita. A very common question asked by devotees all over the world, asked by the seekers. The question is, Swamiji, how to cultivate devotion? Bhagwan has insisted to cultivate Ananya Bhakti, Avyabhicharini Bhakti, single-pointed devotion, unwavering devotion. This is what Bhagwan has said throughout Bhagavad Gita. We understand. But how to cultivate? Where to start? We know that we should love God, but how to love God? Where to start? So a Mahatma has beautifully answered this question. That Mahatma said, test God. Test God. When you test God, you will come to know how much God loves you, how much God is concerned for you. So when you start seeing love of God towards us, we also start loving God. So test God. How to test God? There are so many promises which God has made in Bhagavad Gita. What are the promises he has made? Ananyas chintayanto ma ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktana yogakshemam vahamyaham. Those devotees who fix their mind single-pointedly upon me, I take care of their yogakshema, their welfare, their well-being, whatever they need, I provide to my devotees. There's a promise given by Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. Surrender unto me, I will free you from all sins. Machitta sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi. Arjuna, by my mere grace, you shall overcome all difficulties. So in this way, there are so many promises. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Arjuna, know for certain that my devotee shall never perish. So these are the ways in which Bhagavan has made promises. So therefore, we must test God. How to test God? We all have a lot of problems in life. Family problem, physical problem, emotional problem, intellectual problem, varieties of problems are there. What should we do? We should take our problems to God and see whether he is solving these problems for us or not. This is the way to test. So whatever problem we have, what we should do? We should take it to God and see whether he is solving it or not. Then what will we find? We will definitely find one thing. The moment we take our problems to God, mysteriously our problems we will find a perfect solution. Our problems will be solved. This will happen. Right. Whatever be the problem. If I need money, money will come. If I need strength, strength will come. If I need ideas, knowledge, it will come. If I need courage, it will come. If I need solace, peace, that also will come. If I need resources, that also will come. So in this way, I will find that as I take my problems to Bhagavan and sincerely pray for a solution, I mysteriously find solution for my problems. So here, one thing we have to note, we should be serious about our prayers. So when we take our problems to God, we should be serious. It's not that you pray and then forget. No, that should not happen. So to ensure that we are serious, what should we do? We should take up some tapas. Bhagavan, I will chant Vishnu Sahasranama daily. Or I will do my japa daily, this many mala. Say half an hour, 1 hour, every day I will do. Bhagavan, please, this is my problem. Please find a solution. So this way, I express my commitment by taking up some tapas. Tapas can be of whatever the nature. Some prefer to do upavas, fasting. Some may prefer to do chanting. So this tapas can be of various nature according to your inclination, according to your like. You can take up such tapas and then wait for the response. So as I said, all devotees, this is the experience of all devotees throughout the world in all religions, that whenever we take our problems to God, our problems find a perfect answer. So now what happens when I see this happening again and again? Every time I take my problem to God, I find the best solution from him. Every time this happens in our life, what happens is our trust in God increases. Our faith in God increases. Our relationship, our bonding with God becomes stronger and stronger. Slowly, 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 a feeling comes in my mind that yes, if I have a problem, there is someone who knows the solution to this problem. There is someone who will empower me to overcome my difficulties, who will empower me to fulfill my responsibilities and duties towards all. So when this feeling comes, what happens is mind attains a perfect peace. So a time comes when the problem is staring at us, but we are not perturbed. Why? Because we know that we have somebody with us who will empower us in facing this challenge. This is what happens to a devotee. So in the beginning, Bhagavan says, become an Artha Bhakta, Artharthi Bhakta. Bhagavan says this, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino Arjuna, Arthur Arthartu Jitnyasi, Jnani cha Bharatarshava. So in the beginning, you go to God, not because you want God, but God is the means and world is the goal. This is the way we start our spiritual journey. I have worldly problems and I use God as the means to get my worldly problems solved. This is how everyone begins. Any beginner in spirituality starts this way. Such a bhakta is called Artha Bhakta, a devotee who has approached God due to his afflictions, due to his problem. Or he is an Artharthi Bhakta. He is a devotee who is approaching God to fulfill certain desires, material desires. So in what way God responds to our prayer? So it is said, God answers our prayers in 4 ways. What are the 4 ways? Number 1, yes. Number 2, no. Number 3, wait. And number 4, take. Here is something better. So what are they? First one, yes. Yes means what? Whatever you ask, Bhagwan gives you. Tathastu. Second one, no. You may ask something, but Bhagwan will not give you. Why Bhagwan will not give you? He will not give you because it is not good for you. Suppose, for example, a child asks for knife from mother. Will the child give that knife? No, because it is not good for the child. Or suppose the child is not well, the child is having fever, and the child asks for ice cream. Mother will not give. So in that no also, we must see the hidden love of God. Many times when the answer is no, we lose faith in God. We lose faith in prayers also. That is a big mistake. Right. We should always remember God is not only our wish fulfiller, He is also our well-wisher. He is not only our wish fulfiller, He is also our well-wisher. So many times Bhagwan's answer will be no. So first one, yes. Second one, no. Third one, wait. Wait means what? The right time has not come. When the right time comes, I myself will give you that. Wait is the third one. And the fourth one, take. Here is something better. My dear child, what you're asking is inferior thing. There is something superior. There is something higher. I will give you that. You don't know that, but I know that you are fit for that. You deserve that. Then Bhagwan gives something higher. So these are the 4 ways in which Bhagwan answers our prayers. Now there are some devotees who say, no, we should not ask anything from God. Such devotees are also there. Now please understand, there may be devotees who say, no, Bhagwan knows everything, we should not ask. Right? Fine, those devotees are highly advanced devotees. Now we are talking of beginners. The beginners, they don't know the nature of God. For them, God is almost like a stranger. They don't experience God. So therefore, as far as a beginner is concerned, we must ask God whatever we need. But at the same time, we should say, Bhagwan, this is what I need. But if you think that it is not good for me, then don't give me. That freedom to choose should be given to Bhagwan. Right? So this is the way we must pray. And we have all the right to pray because Bhagwan himself has said, Pitahamasya jagato mata dhata pitamaha. I am the father and mother of this universe. So when the child has some problem, where should the child go? The child should go to the father and mother. It is our birthright to go to approach the Lord. It is our birthright. And when we approach our mother and father, we get the best solution, isn't it? In the same way, we get the best solution from God. So this is the way we begin. We begin the spiritual journey. And when we see more and more results coming, I pray and then wait, test God, and then something happens, and either the problem gets solved or Bhagavan gives me the strength to go through the problem. So different ways Bhagavan can bless us. Different ways. Either the problem dissolves completely, I don't have to face the problem, or he empowers me, gives me strength, knowledge, etc. to go through the problem. So what happens? Slowly my devotion increases. Now, a very big mistake which all of us do is we don't consider this option of taking the problem to God as an option at all. Most of us commit this mistake. It's a big blunder. We think, I know, I don't need any God, etc. I know how to handle my problem. I don't believe in God. This is our attitude. That is why Bhagavad Gita starts with Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Vishada, sorrow. Gita starts with sorrow. And most of us are in the first chapter only. What is first chapter? Arjuna advising Krishna. Absolute non-surrender. I know what to do. I am right. Others are wrong. If this is the attitude, then the end result will be Vishada alone, sorrow alone. This answers this question. Very many times people ask, Swamiji, why is that there is so much of suffering in this world? You say there is God, but there is so much of suffering. Why there is so much of suffering? So the answer to this question is there is so much of suffering because we ignore God. This is the answer. When we ignore God, we have to suffer. With our little intelligence, with our little knowledge, alpatnya we are. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we have come. We don't know anything about this world. When such a ignorant jivatma lives in this world with this wrong notion that I know everything, so naturally the end result has to be sorrow, has to be misery, has to be tragedy. And this is what we are finding in this world. So there is so much of suffering in this world because we have totally ignored the Lord in our lives. It's a beautiful verse in Mukundamala. Nathenaf purushottame trigajata. Nathenaf purushottame trijagatam ekadhipe chetasa. Sevye swasya padasya datari sure narayane tishtati yam kanchit purushadhamam katipaya gramesha malparthadam sevaye mrugayamahe naramaho Mukavarakavayam Mudhavarakavayam. So here, Kulashekara Alvar, who has written this Mukundamala, a beautiful composition, he says, on one side is this Bhagavan, the Lord of three worlds, ready to give himself to the ones who surrender unto him, who lovingly worship him. On one side is this Bhagavan, ready to give himself to his devotees. And what do we people do? We totally ignore that Lord and we crave to serve this third-rate, inferior, corrupt, immoral politician with a little power. He has some little power over some few villages. We crave to serve him. Such wretched fools we are. This is absolutely true. We totally ignore Bhagavan. Therefore, we suffer. So what should we do? The message of Bhagavad Gita is this: turn to me. Again and again, every chapter, this is what we find. Turn to me. And this is how Bhagavad Gita begins also. Arjuna collapses in the chariot, not knowing what to do, utterly confused. Remember, he was the archer number one, world number one in the world, but even he was totally, paralyzed in his confusion. But then one good thing he does. What is that? He turns to Bhagavan for help. Karpanya doshopahata svabhavah prachhami tvam dharma sammudha yachreyasya nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham Shadhimam Tvam Prapannam. Bhagavan, I am totally confused. I don't know what is right, what is wrong. And therefore I have become totally paralyzed. Bhagavan, so please guide me. I surrender unto you. Please teach me, guide me. So this comes in the second chapter. And with this surrender, Arjuna becomes quiet. And it is from here that actual Bhagavad Gita teaching begins. What happened to Arjuna? We all know. He was filled with enthusiasm, courage, clarity. And then what happened at the end of the war? That also we know. So this is what happens. And this is what we all should do. Turn to God. And all our problems will be solved. Right. Whatever we need, Bhagavan is capable of blessing us with that. He knows better because he is Sarvajna. He is the Lord of this universe. There's another beautiful verse in Mukunda Mala. Vatsalyada bhaya pradana samaya artarti nirvapana Audaryada ghashoshana ganita Shreyaf padav prapana Sevya Shripatireka eva satatam Santyatra satsakshinaha Prahladascha vibhishanascha karira Panchalya halya dhruvaha Savior, Shripatireka eva satatam. Bhagavan alone should be worshipped. He will fulfill all desires. In this regard, there are 6 witnesses. Who are they? Prahladascha, Vibhishanascha, Karirat, Gajendra, Prahlada, Vibhishana, Gajendra, Panchali, Draupadi, Ahalya and Dhruva. 6 witnesses are there. Whatever you need, Bhagavan is capable of giving. What did Prahlada get? Vatsalyat. What Prahlada missed was the love and affection of his father, Hiranyakashipu. He got it from Narasimha Bhagavan. What did Vibhishana get? He was given refuge by Bhagavan Ramchandraji. Vatsalyat, Abhayapradana Samayat. Abhayapradanam was given to Vibhishana. And then Karirat, he was freed from all kinds of affliction, the pain from that crocodile. I'm sure all of you know the story, so therefore I'm not getting into all that. Panchali, what happened to Panchali? Draupadi, in that evil assembly, Bhagavan took Vastravatar. There are so many avatars. At that time, what was needed was Vastravatar. So Bhagavan took that. Bhagavan breaks all the laws of this universe to protect his devotee. Audaryat. Agashoshanat, whatever sins we have committed, he is capable of freeing us, washing away all our sins. Who is the best example? Ahalya is the example. And Dhruva, Bhagavan created a separate Dhruva Loka for Dhruva. So what is impossible for Bhagavan? This is the message. So what should we do in our life? convert every calamity into an opportunity. This is the message. Every problem that comes to us in our life, convert it into an opportunity to develop love for God by taking it to God. And when that problem is solved, naturally we start loving God. So convert every calamity into an opportunity to develop devotion for God. This is what you have to do. That's why Draupadi prays in Bhagavatam. Vipadas santu nashashvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yachya apunar bhava darshanam. This is the prayer of Kunti Mata in Bhagavatam. Bhagwan, vipadas santu nashashvat tatra tatra jagat guru. Bhagwan, let calamities come to us again and again. Give me more and more problems. Amma, why are you asking this way? So Kunti Mata says, Bhagwan, it is because whenever problems are there, difficulties are there, from the depth of my heart, I pray. I surrender unto you. I seek your refuge from the depth of my heart. And then what happens? When the prayer becomes heartfelt, I start experiencing your presence in my heart. And all the afflictions go away. The mind attains ultimate peace. So therefore, Bhagavan, give me problems. Only then my prayers become heartfelt. This is Kunti Mata's prayer. So this is what we have to do. Let us remember one thing. If we don't invite Bhagavan into our lives, Bhagavan will not forcefully enter into our life. He will just wait outside. This is the nature of Bhagavan. This we have to understand. That is why everywhere you will find that the first condition is surrender unto me, then I will solve your problem. It is not that Bhagavan will directly come and solve the problem. No, first thing is, the ball is in, we can say, in our court. The first thing which Bhagavan expects is surrender. We have to invite Bhagavan into our lives. Right? This we have to do. Everywhere you will find this condition. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam. You surrender unto me. Aham toa sarva papi. Then I will do the rest. Name bhaktah pranashyati. It is very clear. My devotees who have surrendered to me, I will protect them. So it is our responsibility to invite God into our lives. And that is that symbolic representation of Bhagavan Sri Krishna becoming the charioteer of Arjuna. So who is taking the chariot? Bhagavan is taking the chariot. He is in the driver's seat. Where the chariot will go, what will be the destination of the chariot, everything is decided by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. In the same way, in Kathopanishad, the charioteer, that position is given to Buddhi, the intellect. The chariot is the body. That comes in Kathopanishad. Atmanam rathinam vidhi shariram rathamevatu buddhim tu sarathim vidhi manah pragrahamevacha indriyani hayanahu vishayansteshu gocharan atmendriya mano yuktam bhuktetyahur manishinah. Kathopanishad. The chariot stands for the body. The person inside the chariot is the Jivatma, the individual soul. The path is the sense objects. The horses are the sense organs. The reins, it is the mind. The charioteer is the buddhi, the intellect. So this is the way it is described. And it is said there, charioteer plays the most important role in that chariot example. It is charioteer must have the knowledge regarding the chariot, regarding the horses, regarding the destination. If the charioteer is knowledgeable, then the chariot reaches the destination safely. But If the charioteer doesn't have the right knowledge, then what will happen? Then the horses, the wild, untamed horses, will decide the destination, which is dangerous. So in the same way, in our life also, Buddhi stands for the charioteer. There Bhagavan Sri Krishna is sitting. Means what? Let us surrender our lives to Bhagavan. Let Bhagavan be our charioteer in our life. This is the symbolic message of that chariot. Right. So, as we take our problems as Artha Bhakta, as Artharthi Bhakta, as we take our problems to Bhagavan, Bhagavan is also extremely concerned. The moment we take our problems to him, he starts giving perfect solution for all these problems. He makes us aware of them also. Then what happens? The bondage increases. The relationship with God increases. Devotion, trust, faith, etc. increases. And we come nearer and nearer to God. As we come nearer and nearer to God, we start understanding the nature of God. What is that which Bhagavan loves? What is that which he dislikes? So what is that which Bhagavan loves the most? The one thing which Bhagavan loves the most is dharma, goodness, path of righteousness. How do we know Bhagavan loves dharma the most? Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Bhagavan takes avatar for what? Dharma samsthapana, for establishing this dharma. So that itself proves that Bhagavan loves dharma the most. How does he protect dharma? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. By protecting the sadhus, the dharmic people, the good people, the virtuous people. He protects them. He protects them. Why? Because he loves them. Only when dharmic people are more in the society, dharma can be established. So this is what he does. So therefore, if I want to become a good child of Bhagavan, if I want to become loving in the eyes of Bhagavan, if Bhagavan has to be pleased with me, what should I do? I should practice the noble virtues of life. I should walk the path of righteousness. I should walk the path of goodness. This is called as Devi Sampat in 16th chapter. All the noble virtues are called divine virtues. So those who practice these virtues, those who live their life based on these virtues, Bhagavan loves them like anything. In 12th chapter also Bhagavan says, such a devotee is dear to me. Those who practice all these noble virtues of life. Now a question may come, how will I know whether whatever I have done, Bhagavan is pleased with me or not? How will I know? Whether I have done the right thing or the wrong thing, how will I know whether Bhagavan is pleased with me? So the answer is, look into your own heart. When there is this conscience prick, when the mind is disturbed, understand Bhagavan is not pleased with you. When there is joy in heart, understand Bhagavan is happy with you. This is the way. So the voice of God is clearly heard in our own heart. When we do the wrong thing, the heart is disturbed, the mind is disturbed. That disturbance is the proof that the Lord is not happy with us. And as we become a better and better devotee, how to become better and better devotee? By walking the path of righteousness, by walking the path of dharma, by practicing all these noble virtues, by not compromising with the higher values of life, by not yielding to temptation, by giving up all this kama, krodha, raga, dvesha, ahankara, mamakara, all these negativities. They are called as asuri sampat in 16th chapter. Demonic vices. So when we thus walk the path, what happens is the mind becomes more and more pure. So as the mind becomes more and more pure, we are able to clearly listen to this voice of God. This voice of conscience becomes very clear in a pure heart. Right. In fact, this is one of the indications that we are progressing in the path of spirituality. Mind becomes pure. You are able to listen to this voice of conscience clearly. You're tuned to God. you start feeling the presence of God. You are able to listen to this voice of God. All this will happen only in a sattvic mind, only in a pure mind, not in a tamasic or rajasic mind. So as a person progresses in the path of devotion, mind becomes purer and purer, and he starts intuitively feeling the presence of the divine in his heart. This must happen. So such a person becomes a more contented person, fulfilled person, happy person. This is another sign of growth in devotion, growth in spirituality. That person becomes more and more happy with himself. He becomes more and more introvert, we can say, looking within. His dependence on the external world becomes less. Right? He becomes more and more happy, contented, peaceful, fulfilled. This is a sign of spiritual progress. And then what happens as we walk this path? So Bhagavan says, Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. So those people who worship me with devotion, Bhagavan says, dadami buddhi yogam tam, I give them buddhi yoga, the knowledge of the self. Teshamevanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavastaha jnanadipena bhasvata. Bhagavan says, I, remaining in their heart, light the lamp of knowledge and thus destroy the darkness of ignorance in their heart. So Bhagavan says, I light the lamp of knowledge remaining in their heart. So then what happens when this lamp of knowledge is lit? When this lamp of knowledge is lit, what happens is ignorance goes away. Then what happens? Knowledge dawns. What is the expression of this knowledge? In this knowledge, I come to know this I in me, the aham, I am, this experience. Actually, this I doesn't belong to the ego. It doesn't belong to the Jivatma. It is nothing but Paramatma alone. Put in other words, God's existence is misunderstood as my existence. Actually speaking, I don't exist. The ego doesn't exist at all. The ego is a mere illusion. It has no existence. What exists is Bhagavan alone. So Bhagavan's existence is misunderstood as my existence. So a devotee comes to realize the illusory nature of the ego and the real nature of the Lord. So how is Bhagavan experienced in our heart? As the very I in us, the aham in us. That's why Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvatah aipatatyaham nija vicharanam ahaminasha bhajahamahantaya spurati hrutsvayam paramapurnasat. So these are the beautiful verses of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi in Upadesha Sara. When you start inquiring into the nature of the self, who is this I? Aham ayam kutah bhavati iti chinvatah. I patati, wonder of wonders, this ego, this aham falls. This is called a self-inquiry. Then what happens? Ahaminasha bhaji, aham ahantaya spurati hrutsvayam paramapurnasat. The false ego, the false I falls, and the real I shines in its presence. And what is the nature of this real I? Paramapurnasat. Satchit Ananda Swarupa, which is all perfect, which is immortal, which is infinite, which is bliss. This is what the devotee experiences. This is how Ishvara Darshanam happens. Isha Darshanam Swa Atma Rupataha, as one's own I, Aham, this experience of the Lord happens. So who is the Lord? Lord is none other than the I in me. So which in the Upanishads it is said, Aham Brahma Asmi. This I is very, very, what you call, reverential. It is none other than Bhagavan himself. So, as a part of this knowledge, this is the final, we can say, culmination of devotion. So what happens at the final stage of devotion? Jivatma completely dissolves, and what remains is only Paramatma. Ego completely merges in that infinite consciousness. We come to know this consciousness is none other than Bhagavan himself. This is the culmination. Right. So I sincerely invoke the grace of the Lord and the blessings of all saints, Mahatmas, the entire Guru Parampara. May we all cultivate this devotion for the Lord and attain the ultimate state of moksha, of liberation. My humble prostrations to Pujya Swami Mukundanji, and my deep gratitude to the entire team of JKYog for giving me this wonderful opportunity to speak on a topic, the topic of devotion, a topic which is very close to my heart. Now, we will have a, what you call, a question and answer session as per the request. Right. Hari Om.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. Wonderful pravachan. Truly appreciated your talk on how to cultivate devotion, love for God. That is also very close to our hearts, especially the devotees. We all follow the path of devotion. So thank you for taking time to explain this. You touched upon how the beginners can start God as means to get their worldly things and then transition into Ananya Bhakti at advanced level, and also talked about how to see God within us, how to handle, how to progress in different situations and use opportunity to test God to get to solve worldly answers. So I have some questions. With your permission, I would like to ask just to get clarifications and to understand this topic further.
Yes, Amma.
So you talked about four, when we ask God, like taking our questions or problems to God, that is one way to test God. Whatever we wish to do, ask Him to solve our problems. And there are four ways. Yes, either it's no, or wait, or God may say, take something superior. So now we are praying, and you also suggested one of the ways that you make a resolution that you will do Vishnu Sahasranam or some devotion on a daily practice till your problem gets resolved, and then you will know that your prayers are answered, and then you will develop more love, and then you will do more prayer, and so on. So how do you know when the prayers are not answered, whether you are not doing your prayers properly, when your problems are not solved? How do we know that you are not progressing well in your own devotion, or is it that God is not answering your prayers, and does that eventually make you negative towards God and makes people atheist?
Yes. Amma, see, we should not lose faith even when our prayers are not answered. Don't lose faith. Continue your sadhana. A time will come when Bhagavan himself will show you. See, I did not give you that. See, a time will come and you will say, Bhagavan, thank you. I was asking for something dangerous and you did not give me. Thank you very much. Such a moment will come. He himself will reveal that moment to you. A time will come and you will say, thank you, God, you did not give me what I had asked, because I was asking something wrong. He himself will prove it to you. Right? So therefore, we don't have to worry about that. It is God's responsibility to show that he was right and we were wrong. But we must have patience and we must not lose faith.
So people who are suffering from chronic diseases and life becomes so difficult, each day becomes so painful to go by. In those conditions, you think God is going to show them the way and they will remain positive? How do we give them a ray of hope and faith in those conditions?
See, what happens is, Bhagavan gives an inner experience to them that they are not the body. That the body may die, but their existence doesn't come to an end with the non-existence of the body. This is what happens. For example, our Taponji Maharaj, Guru of Swami Chinmayanji Maharaj, he never came down from Himalayas. So later stages, he was having a lot of physical ailments. So Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayanji said, you come down. In Delhi, we have wonderful hospitals. If you come down with me, I will give you the best treatment. You know what Taponji Maharaj said? Chinmaya, don't people die in Delhi? And you know what he said? Chinmaya, why should I extend my stay in this cage of flesh and bones? For more than 70 years, Bhagavan has been waiting on the other side with extended arms. My dear child, come. How long should I make Bhagavan wait? This was his answer. Why should I extend my stay in this cage of flesh and bones? So what happens to devotee is, Bhagavan intuitively reveals to them that they are not the body, they are something beyond the body. They are the consciousness in the body. This is what happens. Now, when I come to know that I am not the body, I am consciousness, what happens to the fear of death? It disappears. All the fear of death is because of the wrong notion in the mind that I am the body. So what does Bhagavan do? Now, this is called lighting the lamp of knowledge remaining in the heart. A knowledge dawns upon you, which makes you directly experience that you are not the physical body, you are the consciousness, which is the observer of the physical body. This is how Bhagavan blesses these devotees. I hope I have answered.
Thank you so much. So, if you are, let's say, if you are, most of the problems many times come when people turn into middle age, when they have responsibilities, family to feed, taking care of parents, and so on, making the ends meet. Now, when you are just starting your life and when you really don't have, you are happy, enjoying life, taking care of everything your parents have provided, and there are no real problems that you have. So in those situations, what do you do? How do you start your devotion? Because what do you advise young generation? How do we get into devotion if there are no problems that they are aware of it?
You are saying how to make the child eat food when it's not hungry. You don't have to do anything. And let me tell you one thing. It is a wrong concept to say that, no, there is no suffering in this world. They are all, always you cannot be happy. Because Bhagavan himself has said in Bhagavad Gita, this world is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This is the term used by Bhagavan himself. Arjuna, turn to me. This world is dukkhalayam. What is dukkhalayam? Ale means abode. Like Vidyalayam, an abode of knowledge is called Vidyalaya. Okay? Ashwalaya, an abode of horses is called Ashwalaya. So what is Dukhalaya? An abode of sorrow. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkham. Tell me one person who is free from all this. Birth is pain, death is pain, old age is pain, disease is pain, varieties of pains are there in this world. Okay, so a time will come in everyone's life when there is pain, when there is suffering, when there are challenges, problems, especially after marriage, when 1 or 2 kids are born. Real samsara tapatraya, when it starts, it is true that youngsters may not be, turning to spirit. That I agree. But a time comes in life when there are so many problems, and then there is no other way but to turn to God. Right. So we have no choice but to turn to God.
Understood. So at some point, everyone will become unhappy and they will, we go to God. Any suggestions for our youth and younger generation that at what age devotion should start in one's life? How do we nurture younger generation so they follow the path of dharma? What advice would you give for that?
See, as far as small children are concerned, in Chinmaya Mission, we have this Balivihar, etc. The small children, they just obey the parents. So we have no problem with children. But once they grow up, maybe 8th standard, 9th standard, once they become teenagers, once the ego grows in them, then they will start disobeying their parents. This is what we see everywhere. Once they become youngsters, ego takes root. Then they generally go away from spirituality. So what to do then? So then it is a responsibility of the parents and the teachers, etc., to convince them how spirituality can help them. See, unless something helps me in my life, I will have no value for it. When do I value something? Somewhere I must have a problem, and I must see that thing as a solution to my problem. Only then I will value that. So therefore, if I can make this relationship, see, if you are spiritual, if you meditate regularly, if you know the knowledge of the scriptures, then you can be more efficient. You can attain higher success. Connect to them. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, there is a, what you call, not all advice need to be taken, but there are certain advice meant for youngsters. For example, Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Your own mind is your greatest friend. Your own mind is your worst enemy. Now, this is something which can, which youngsters, you can give it to them. For example, if my mind is under my control, then I can concentrate. I can work hard. All those factors which are necessary for success, actually all those factors are connected to the mind. Generally, we ask this question, what are the factors necessary for success? Then they say concentration, hard work, attitude, and this and that. All those factors are connected to mind. So if you have your mind under your control, then all these factors will naturally, it will be coming out of you. You have control over it. So naturally, then success will follow your footsteps. So therefore, spirituality is important because you can master your mind through that. And once the mind comes under your control, success is natural for you. So this way, we must connect their problems and we must guide them, saying that your solution is here. Do this and you will be successful. You don't have to talk about moksha, etc. to youngsters. Never do that. Then they will be allergic to spirituality. So we must know what the youngster needs and how to connect the spiritual knowledge to their needs. If this can be done, then youngsters can be inspired into spirituality.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. So you also talked about people who are advanced on their path, and Ananya Bhakti is the goal that we wish to go towards, right? So as the transition occurs, could you elaborate what is Ananya Bhakti or the characteristics that devotees should develop as we want to go into that as the end goal? Initially, we are going for the world as a means to reach there, that solve this problem, solve that problem, get me job, fix this, fix that. But eventually we want exclusive devotion. So if you could kindly elaborate on that.
Yes. See, our Vedanta says, Tat Tvamasi. You are already perfect. Perfection is already in you. You are already infinite. You are all, whatever you are desiring, you are already that. Right? So then if I am already perfect, if I am already infinite bliss, etc., why is it that I am not experiencing? So then Vedanta says it is because of your mind. Your impure mind is obstructing this vision, which is your nature. Right? So in the beginning, Artha Bhakta, Artharthi Bhakta, in the beginning, I think world is the solution, God is the means. I think I can be happy with the world. But as a person advances in spirituality, he comes to know that I need not seek perfection from the world because perfection is already my nature. Just like fire need not seek heat from outside, heat is its nature. Right? So in the same way, I come to know that perfection is already there in my heart. Then who is the obstruction? Mind is the obstruction. What kind of mind? A tamasic, rajasic mind, an impure mind. So then a sadhaka who is in the advanced stages, he is not trying to fulfill his desires in the world and try to be happy. No, all his attention is upon his mind. How to reform this mind, how to refine this mind, purify this mind, how this mind can become richer and richer in devotion, dispassion, knowledge, etc. Because my problem is my mind. And once that mind is thoroughly purified, that pure mind can be easily quietened, because a pure mind is a disciplined mind, a tamed mind, an obedient mind. So at the seat of meditation, whatever instruction I give that mind obeys. So at the seat of my meditation, I say, mind, come back. So it is easily able to withdraw from the world because it is rich in dispassion. Easily it is able to withdraw. There is no raga dvesha, there is no kama krodha. So that mind listens to me. And then I'm easily able to turn the attention of the mind towards the self within. Yato yato nischalati manaschanchalamasthiram tatastato niyamye tat atmanyeva vasham nayet. This is the instruction given in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Whenever the mind goes out, bring back the mind and fix it in the self. This is the instruction given. Shane shaneeru paramek buddhya dhritigrihitaya atma samstham manakritva nakinchitapi chintayet. Slowly turn that mind from the outer world, withdraw it and fix it in the self. Now, when the mind is very pure, rich in devotion, in humility, in compassion, forgiveness, all those noble virtues, such a mind is a disciplined, tamed, pure mind. It just obeys. Just like a very good child obeying the instruction of the mother, that mind obeys, it withdraws, it fixes its attention upon the self. Now, what is the nature of the self? Satchit Ananda is the nature of the self. So as you are turning your attention upon the consciousness in you, the nature of consciousness is infinite bliss. The nature of consciousness is immortality, perfection in one word. So when that mind experiences that state of perfection, it is thoroughly fulfilled. Such a mind, will it go out? It will never go out, because whatever it wants, see, mind basically wants happiness. The mind is going to the world for happiness. Now that mind gets a higher happiness in devotion, in meditation, etc., such a mind remains firmly fixed in the self. This self is nothing but God only. So the mind ever remains at the lotus feet of the Lord. This is what happens at the higher stages.
Thank you so much for explaining the importance of purifying the mind and how to even work towards that. And you mentioned meditation, bringing mind back to God again and again. And thank you for explaining that. So that brings me to the point, if you are a seeker, a devotee on the progress, how do you know how you are progressing, and any signs or milestones, or just to get affirmation that yes, continue doing that? Any suggestions for that?
What is the proof that we are evolving spiritually?
No, the question is, what are the signs for spiritual seekers that I am progressing and making my practice is making a difference in purifying my mind. How do we know that?
How do we know? How do we know whether we are evolving or not, progressing or not? Correct? See, there is a very famous thing which we discuss. We say there is an FIR test. Have you heard of FIR test? F means frequency, I means intensity, and R means recovery time. So as a person does his spiritual sadhana, this FIR, what is F? How frequently I am disturbed. F. I means intensity. How intensely I am disturbed. R, recovery time. How quickly I recover from that disturbed state to the normal balanced state. So FIR, what should happen to FIR as we progress spiritually? FIR should come down, isn't it? The frequency of disturbance comes down. Earlier, in a day, 10 times I get disturbed. Now, maybe once in a month only I get disturbed. So frequency of disturbance, it comes down. Intensity of disturbance also. There is something called intensity. That also comes down. And then recovery time also comes down. So this is what happens. So you say, oh my God, 5 years back how I was and now how I am. When I compare, there is a remarkable difference. So if that difference you are able to see, know for sure you are progressing.
Very nice. I'm going to have one last question for all our participants and for myself also. I've learned so much. The topic was cultivating devotion, love for God, exclusive devotion, ananya bhakti. So what is that one thing that you would advise for devotees who are on the path of devotion that they can enhance for the quality of that ananya bhakti? What is it one thing that one point that you think one can focus and keep on practicing more and more so that love for God grows in their hearts?
Well, there is no way in which we can be peaceful without God. The earlier we understand, the better it is. I remember some of the statements made by Tulsi in Tulsi Ramayana. There, Tulsidas ji says, it is possible that darkness may destroy the sun. See, it is just all these are impossible statements. But he says, it may be possible that darkness may destroy the sun, but it is impossible that a person may be happy without God. It is possible that you may squeeze sand and oil may come out, but it is impossible that a person can be happy without God. It is possible that flowers may, grow in the sky, but it is impossible that a person can be happy turning away from God. So in that way, he makes so many statements. It is possible that, grass may grow upon the tortoise shell, but it is impossible that a person can be happy without God. So, whatever we are doing in life, let us turn to God, and through God, let us fulfill our desires, whatever the worldly desires are there, and let us know for sure that without God, there is no way in which we can be peaceful. So to the extent we know this, to that extent, our progress in this path of devotion will be faster. There is no choice for us. In short, there is no choice. There is a beautiful statement, one line I will say, no God, no peace. No God, no peace. The first one is N-O, God, N-O, peace. The second one is K-N-O-W, God, K-N-O-W, peace. Right.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful session. Truly appreciate your time and the guidance you have given to all the people who are on this Bhagavad Gita Summit platform, and our heartfelt gratitude to you for gracing the occasion. We would also like to invite you here at our Radha Krishna temple in Dallas. If you ever come to USA, we would love to welcome you, host you here. Thank you so much.
There is one kind of knowledge that aims at providing enlightenment to resolve a problem that we are facing. And there is another kind of enlightenment that strikes at the root of all problems in one go. And the Bhagavad Gita serves as a user's manual on how to lead our life to reach that ultimate goal.